Hey, welcome to Redmen TV. Upcoming, me and Neil Jones chatting about the contract situations with Diogo Jota agreeing an extension, but still no further news on Bobby Firmino or Naby Keita. Should they be getting signed down? What does it mean? Let's watch that show. And if you want to watch the full Journo Insight, head over to Redmen Plus. Sign up and get it in video or in podcast form. Let's talk Diogo Jota contract. Smart business, really. What do you know about the deal itself, and I guess why have they pushed the button on this now?
Yeah, 5-year contract. He's been at the club 2 years next month. I think his performance has been good. You know, he come in. I think there was a few eyebrows raised at the fee. Yeah. You know, quite a lot of money. I remember thinking it was a very good sign at the time. I was a fan of Jota from his Wolves days. I didn't expect Liverpool to sign him, but I thought when he did, pretty good. But I think he's probably exceeded expectations in terms of the impact that he's made, getting into the side, scoring goals, scoring big goals, being a part of a successful team. So I think it's a reward thing. I don't think he came in on huge wages. You know, he came in on, Wolves plus, if you want to call it that, sort of wage. I think now he's on what you call a Liverpool first team wage, 5-year deal. You know, he's 25, 26. So he's part of the long-term future around the club. Very much, I think, someone who's bought in I don't even think bought in, sort of just fitted into the mentality and the way that Liverpool want to play. Popular lad. So I think it's just a case of reward and retention. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about him for a few years now.
Yeah, and I suppose as with Liverpool seem to be very good at the timing of these. Often, players out injured. Maybe he's got a little bit of thinking about his future, because I think Jota's in a really awkward situation because he's gone in the space of like 9 months from being the golden child of Liverpool, and all the fans, everyone adores him. He's the guy with the best song and all that kind of stuff. And then he's had some injury issues since then. Since then, we've brought in Diaz. We've brought in lads for big money in both the positions that he would likely be hoping to lay claim to, in addition to the injury. But Liverpool doing this, I guess it kind of sends a message to him. It says, no, don't worry about that. You're obviously a long-term part of the plans. But does it maybe also send a message with regards to injury? And it says, don't rush yourself back, mate, because there's a lot of Liverpool career ahead of you.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I agree with what you say about they signed Diaz and Núñez, but he signed Liverpool when they had Sadio Mane and Mo Salah and Roberto Firmino. The most established front three in Europe, probably, or one of them. And he backed himself to come in and break that up. So I don't think there's any fear about the challenge that lies ahead of him. I think he'll back himself that he'll play a lot of games. I'm sure he will, providing he stays fit. But I think it's what we've been calling for a long time, isn't it? How many times have you heard fans talk about City having 4 or 5 attacking options and Liverpool maybe beyond the front three only having Origi or Minamino or whoever? Who was it before that? Sturridge or Solanke, those kind of people where you're thinking there's a drop off. There isn't now. The subs for a game now could be Jota and Firmino, or it could be Núñez and Diaz. That's your bench options if everyone's fit. So it's just another good footballer, someone who's au fait with what Liverpool are after. Really sort of representative, I think, of the work that the club does and the way that they want the team to play. And yeah, it's just it was expected. I think we talked about it maybe 2-3 weeks ago. It was about after Salah signed, it was going to be Jota and Keita they were looking to do next. And there's one down.
Well, let's kind of move on. I suppose let's bundle the contract talking together, really, because Jith, one of our club legends in our Club Legend Discord chat, which, of course, if you're a club captain, you can upgrade your subscription and get involved with, he says, or he asks, is there much talk around Keita regarding contract negotiations? Like, are there any sticking points, or is it just not a priority at the moment? Or are they even seeing if Naby deserves a new contract? And then we'll talk about Bobby Firmino after that, but let's start with the Keita stuff.
I think we spoke, I don't know, last week, but we spoke about, I think it was me and Steve actually, so it would have been the week before, and we spoke about how difficult it is to sort of, where do you pitch Keita sort of pay rise talks? What if you're doing his appraisal, sort of what band are you giving him? It's really difficult, isn't it? Because you think, I'd be amazed if Liverpool let him go on a free, given the money that he cost and the sort of excitement and the investment that they made in him in terms of how often they've said...
The optics are not great on that one, are they, to bring someone like that in and then him not?
Yeah, and
not
when you hear them talk and you hear Jurgen speak, he doesn't speak like someone who's, just paying lip service to someone. Sometimes, you might get it, Emre Can's still a very important player, or that kind of thing. He really does think Naby Keita is shit hot, if he's fit. Whether he can get enough of Keita this season to prove that beyond any reasonable doubt, we don't know. But he had a good season last year. He needs to carry that on. If he does, I think he will get a new contract. I think he will get a new contract, full stop, to be honest. But it's just an interesting one to see how they pitch. Is it incentivized? Is it one of them, look, we'll give you this new 4-year deal, but we'll review it in a year. We'll have this incremental pay rise thing, but based on appearances or whatever. Or does Naby sort of say, do you know what? I just don't think it's going to work for me. I just don't think I can get everything I want. I don't think playing the odd game, or not the odd game, but having to fight for me place in this way and losing it if I get injured or whatever. I actually want a bit more certainty. Maybe, depends what's out there, but I expect him to get a new contract personally. I just don't know when.
Yeah, I kind of, you're right, he's in such an awkward position, because I think as we're still going into the season, and this might have changed in the manager's thinking, he still feels like the 4th choice midfielder, which is no disrespect, because at the minute he's almost like the first understudy for Thiago, certainly, and he's got options there to help be understudy for Jordan Henderson as well. He's a senior player. He's obviously very good. He's got a skill set that fits dovetails wonderfully in Liverpool's midfield. And I've been quietly impressed by him in the last season in particular. His availability has been much better than it's ever been as a Liverpool player.
40 games last season.
And actually how he's played in terms of how robust he's been on the pitch. I think about Burnley, his impact in that game, at Turf Moor, and he's getting stuck in and he's holding his own and he's using his body weight better. Nowhere near the flashy sort of player that I think everyone thought they were getting. But that goes to your point of how difficult it then is to gauge what you do with him, because is Naby Keita supposed to be a midfield transformer? He's a guy who's meant to be getting 10 goals a season, or is he just a guy who's Gini Wijnaldum light and he's coming in and doing that? And the answer should probably be somewhere in between the two. But yeah, it feels like he's finally cracked the Gini Wijnaldum stuff. Can he then add more on top?
This won't be a popular one with a certain section, but I do think there's a comparison with Curtis Jones in that sense, in that you don't want to train out the talent from the player, but you did need to see it. And I know a lot of people, there's a lot of stats and about, well, he presses this and he does that. Yeah, you're right. But there's also the clear fact that Liverpool struggled more to lock down midfield when Curtis originally came into the side, when Naby was in the side, and when Ox is in the side. I think is the same. Yeah. There's a reason Jordan Henderson starts most games. They started the most games out of everyone last season. Thiago speaks for himself, but there's a reason Fabinho, if he's fit, plays. If he can get him in. There was a very interesting quote from in Pep Lijnders' book about Naby, where he says he's a brilliant sub against tired opposition. He said because he comes on against tired legs and he can ghost past people, and it's good and bad, that, isn't it, for Naby? That's like, cheers, I get to come off the bench and run at knackered old fellas, but it's not a bad thing to be. And with the 5 subs, it might see more of that. I thought he did well off the bench against City. He wasn't the first midfield sub that they made. Obviously, Harvey got the nod first, didn't he, and come on after Darwin. But I thought he did well, and I think he's done that more than a few times in the last 12 months, where you go, Keita made an impact in that game. Keita made a difference to Liverpool when he come on. He's done it from the start as well. It's just, again, a little bit like what I was saying about Tyler Morton. Can he get in there and just sort of keep hold of that shirt where you go, you just can't drop him. You think about, if you want to sum up his career, you could do it in the space of a week there, couldn't you? He scores and taken off against Atletico Madrid at half time, scores an absolute rasp, taken off because, and again we know why, because Pep Lijnders said the left-hand side of Atletico Madrid was getting in too easy, so they wanted Jordan over there to cover it off. They trusted him to do that more than Keita. Then he plays against United, which I thought was a great decision from Jurgen. Put him back in so it didn't become an issue that he's been jibbed again. Scores the goal, plays brilliantly, and then gets topped by Paul Pogba, and is out for a bit of time with an injury. So there's a lot of those little stories where you go, oh, Naby, come on, starts in the new camp in 2019, goes off injured, ends up missing the second leg, misses the final. Napoli, I think he had one when he went off injured. There's just so many of those little false starts, and we're all just waiting for the one when there isn't a false start, and he just becomes it. And I still think he can, and I think I wouldn't be at all surprised if he started this weekend. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he started the Palace game. But yeah, until he... as much as we all like to talk about what he's done, we just can't quite qualify him as that sort of absolute starting midfielder. In
terms of contract negotiations, he's a great example of, and Liverpool explain this around like Lovren's contract extension back in the day of, he's if he can't crack it as a, right, I'm the next starting midfielder for Liverpool, I'm gonna become an established member of this team. There is no shame in being a really useful squad member, because he knows everyone
Joe
he's
Gomez.
to do exactly, and you actually need to keep these guys on contracts, because if they go, all of a sudden you're faced with having to replace backups, and backups are actually, it's far more dangerous replacing backups than it is first teamers. It's easier because you've got a wider pool maybe to shop from, but they're not as talented, and they've got to accept less game time, and you run the risk of weakening your overall squad.
Yeah, well, if you look at Liverpool at the moment, at the age of the team really, and you look at, so you've got a group of players who are in their early 30s. You've got Van Dijk, Salah, Henderson, Thiago, Firmino. They're all in their early 30s. Then you've got the next rung of the ladder really, and that's people like Keita, Gomez, Jota, Diaz. And then you've got the even younger ones again, Nunes and Carvalho and Elliott and Curtis, Robertson being obviously the middle group. But so you could theoretically say you are planning. The plan is for all those players to become absolute nailed on starters. I don't know if they will. I don't know if Joe Gomez will ever really be Liverpool's sort of number one centre back, but he might. Keita might be Liverpool's number one starting midfielder. Jota might be Liverpool's number one starting wide forward, or the new Firmino. So there is that contingency path, but you've, like you say, you've still got to look after their contract situations, because you don't want to be in a situation. I mean, we saw the situation they got themselves in this summer with all three of the front three being in 1 year. You don't want that when all three of your backup midfielders are in the last year, which, funny enough, they are at the moment.
Let's talk Firmino then. We had a question here from Jürgen's Tricky Reds, and our club legend scored again. Says, does Neil think there's any chance Bobby will be given a new contract? I think he deserves it, and I think he would take a pay cut to stay, as he loves the club, the fans and the stadium.
It's a big assumption.
Wow.
Big assumption,
yeah.
I mean, he did say as much, didn't he? He did say, I mean, I actually saw it. I nearly fell over because Roberto Firmino was in the mix zone speaking.
Wow.
Yeah, Bobby, if you've ever done a mix zone with Liverpool, and Roberto Firmino is the nicest sort of rejection.
Brush off.
I mean, to be fair, he doesn't even get asked now. He just walks through sort of a big grin on his face.
I've never seen him.
I mean, I remember I have seen him speak when it was after the Champions League final.
ESPN Brazil, every now and again, it's like,
that was it. Obviously, yeah, that's who he did speak to after the Community Shield. But some pretty standard quotes where he said, "I love the club, I love the city, I love the team. Of course, I want to stay." Which we've spoke about this on the show a few times. I'm quite pleased that it's been seemingly quite comprehensively nipped in the bud, the Juventus stuff, both by Jürgen and Firmino. Jürgen, I asked Jürgen myself. I mean, if you remember last week, I think I said he will be asked about Bobby Firmino because I'm going to ask him, and I did. I was true to my word, and he said he's the heart and soul of the team. Definitely part of the squad this season. Obviously, going to plan for him. He said after that we will see. It's another tough one, isn't it? Because what do you give Roberto Firmino? I mean, I could see a situation where he left on a free and got the great sort of send off, the one that he deserves as a Liverpool legend. Yeah. I could also see a situation where Liverpool could say, well, one more year, do you want to go on a little rolling? He's not as old as James Milner, but that sort of situation, I think there'll be. I actually think there might be more tears around his departure than probably anyone that leaves Liverpool at this stage. Maybe Jordan Henderson or
if
someone like that.
If he's not your favourite player, he's almost certainly a second favourite player.
But I mean, I even mean among the staff and the players, the teammate. I actually think that'll be one of them where it will hit them that morning after and go, oh, Bobby's gone, wow, that's going to be tough to replace. So I wonder whether that might, sort of Liverpool might just look to put that off, and say, well, if he's our fifth choice forward, then we're in good shape, aren't we? But I actually personally thought brilliant against Manchester City. Like I thought, obviously I reckon there was a little bit of, I wouldn't say disappointment, but I think there was probably a little bit of, I really wanted to see Núñez v Haaland from the start. But I thought, yeah, he got that absolutely spot on. He picked exactly the right team, and he picked exactly the right moment to unleash Darwin. And I don't think you can underestimate just how much work Firmino did in that hour to get Liverpool in the ascendancy, and also to sort of create that environment where Darwin can come on and exploit City.
No, I totally agree on that one. He's one to me. I don't know where I was speaking about this, but if he wants to stay at Liverpool for the rest of his career, he just would, because I just don't see any. He's not. The only question's going to be, and this is always a factor for Liverpool, because I think they saw Gerrard and they saw Carragher, and you see it with other players where they've got to be able to play football. So you don't want a guy who's on $250,000 a week who can't get on the pitch, gets on the pitch 1 in 4 or whatever. And I wonder whether this first half of the season is going to be big for that, because can he make him, particularly with Jota out? There's a lot of football there for Bobby, I think, more than there was at the back end of last season, potentially. If he's fit and available, does he go the World Cup? Because can he get another mid-season off, another break? Because we have used him a lot, and Brazil have used him a lot in tournaments. And then, what does the rest of his campaign look like? And maybe there's an option where they go, well, we can see now. Actually, last season was a bit of an aberration, or a build-up of things. With a bit of break, we can get Bobby back to what he was the year before.
And Liverpool know him. Liverpool know that whether his decline, if you want to call it that, or whether there is a decline on the go, what do the wider football world think? Do the Paris Saint-Germain's or Bayern Munich's or Juventus or the world think he's going that way, or do they still think no, we can see that he's still there? And what offers does he have in that sense? Because if he gets to January, obviously he can negotiate with elsewhere. Does he want to leave that? I mean, that's probably the big question, isn't it? Really, I don't think Liverpool would force him out the door, but I think if he was to say, look, I'm thanks for everything, like, I'm going to have a little look over here and see what else I can do in the rest of my career, I don't think Liverpool would stand in his way. But yeah, I completely agree. So much to offer still, Bobby Firmino, and I always go back to it, and I've written it so many times down the last couple of years. When he plays well, Liverpool that's when Liverpool are at the best, when Bobby Firmino plays well. Yeah,
totally agree. Well, what would you think at home? Do you think Bobby Firmino deserves a new contract? What would you be doing?
Well, this guy's already given him a pay cut.
Well, yeah, I know. Bless him. Poor old Bobby. You've got to stay on less money, I know. It's been trust.
Footballers in the north, so some pay cuts,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You reckon in the public sector, he's in big trouble. There you have it. Yes, if you want the full Journo Insight Show first every week, live and in podcast form, you can get it over on redmenplus.com. Neil lifting the lid on all the things behind the scenes in and around the world of Liverpool Football Club with his expert Journo Insight. Join us, redmenplus.com. Get that and a whole host of extra Liverpool shows, incredible interviews and wonderful cultural features to bring you closer to this wonderful football club that we love so much. I'll see you over there.